Hey everybody, Adam here. Welcome to another episode of TFG Radio. Just a quick programming note. Today we are joined by myself, Adam, as always, and Danny, as always, almost always. And today we have a special guest of Jessie, who was one of the frontline judges that was at ACO this past last week. So there was a bit of a technical hiccup. So we started about midway through the start of the show. So it's going to start from there. So there's a bit skip. There's a skip of the intro and the introductions. Just for transparency's sake, the hiccup was me forgetting to turn on the recording devices. So it's all on me on this one. But have a listen. We talk about ACO, what happened there, some of the issues there. We talk about some of the new stuff and some of our stuff going forward, and a brief update on the store for those that are interested. But other than that, enjoy the show.
Yeah, well,
It was alright.
yeah, it was fine. So,
No 40K event runs perfectly or doesn't have somebody with drama upset. It's every 40K event.
yeah, so it was okay.
Well, you had a new mission pack. I'm sure that went swimmingly and
Yeah,
no
so
problems.
so about as everyone knows, about 4 days before rules cut off, the mission pack, and the day of rules cut off, the new deck came out. So we allowed it. Luckily, the mission pack there wasn't too much in terms of change. It's all like little things. Like I think what's the one with the Terraform had a little change to it where you can flip it.
Yeah, it flips now and not just forever.
Yeah, so you can flip back and forth.
Oh, okay. That's
We had the
nice.
display come out before rules update too. That was a pretty big one, right?
Yeah, and that
Yeah.
changed Tau. Some people had to change their Tau. I mean, we allowed we allowed both versions of Raveners for this event.
Oh, really?
I don't think
Yeah.
anybody brought either version, or they didn't try to bring the new one.
The teams won. They brought. I think they had the new one, but I think one of the teams decided to bring the old one instead.
I know Soul Grinders
So I
was the hot topic. We thought everybody
Oh my
was
God.
going to show up without bases, and we printed 10, and nobody had a Soul Grinder the whole event.
Yeah, neither side.
We were
Very
going to
depressing.
supply bases for them.
Yeah,
Jared
See how
was a
they-
big
they
help
s-
printing them.
yeah. They spit on my generosity of offering bases. So that was good. We had what else was there in terms of the? I think Tau had a big change on their stuff. So we had a few Tau questions going into the tournament. We had questions about the warp meld for Thousand Suns.
Thousand Suns just being a new book too with Death Guard.
Yeah, so it wasn't too bad, but in that regard, overall, it actually went fairly well. I know, like we learned that you can now turn in cards or return cards or get rid of cards at the end of your opponent's turn too. You just don't get a CP.
Really?
Yeah, so that was something new we learned.
Yeah, that one was kind of fun to try to find in the middle of the game. Somebody asking that question had to find where exactly in the packet it was. You know, every time somebody has a judge call, they can never just tell you exactly where it is, and they always just say, "Oh, there's an FAQ for it," and it's like that's
Right.
useless.
Yeah, so Danny, you'll be happy to know that just like BAO, a majority of the questions were easily solved by just reading the card.
Right. So if we read the whole set of rules, they will usually have an answer. Is that what I'm
Reading
hearing?
the
Well, it
card
was-
explains the card. Don't tell 40K.
Yeah.
players that.
I refuse
Yeah,
to believe this.
And so doesn't matter what edition, what tournament rules you're using, it's all the same. Because BAO was before, Pariah, ACO was the new one, and it was still the same issue. We did get a lot of so the format was literally half the people there. We had about 200 people. Half of them were playing singles, the other half was playing teams. because the teams was based off of WTC, we used the WTC terrain and the WTC wall ruling. And so whenever, and it was only out of all the judges, only 2 of them were really willing to go explain the wall rule to the team.
Yeah, I let Jared handle like all of those. Jared and John.
Yeah, that was Jared and Jonathan were the other judges, and then we had Jessie and Jorge and myself. So if there are any wall questions or combat questions of that nature, we just let them handle it. We had a number of those. A lot of terrain questions as always. It's a lot of like, hey, this thing is facing the L is facing the wrong way, and then it's like, oh, is it the new terrain, the District 13? Well, the District 13 terrain can flip. There's these little tabs you take out, and then you can flip the walls and everything. So that's always a question now. And then I think there was a good amount of, I don't know if Jessie, was there any question that came up that you can remember?
Like good ones that actually like we had to look into?
Well, that and ones that everybody kept on asking.
I mean, there's the WTC one with the charging that came up, and then some of it was just like they didn't even bother to read it, and they were like, "Can my knight use this?" And it's like, it says infantry and beasts. I'm gonna say no.
Yeah.
You know, bunch of that. There was a good one about. I wasn't there for the scenario, but I know it applies to like new World Eaters specifically, and I'm kind of curious to see how many World Eater players actually know this. To be eligible to charge, you have to start the charge phase on the table and be within 12 of something. So like, if you're using blood crushers and you do those impact mortals and kill something to pop out blood letters, even if you put those blood letters within 12, they didn't start the charge phase on the table to be within 12. So they just have to sit there and stare angrily. And I thought that was a pretty interesting question.
Yeah, I can't remember any that stood out to me other than not reading the card itself.
Yeah,
like I said, there was a lot of that.
That and the discard secondaries. That was the other interesting one I had to find.
Yeah, that was a big one. It was weird having it flip between the two. Like I said, half the room was singles, half the room was teams. We did something different where for singles they played 3 games day 1, and then 2 games on day 2 and 2 games on day 3 for 7 games total. And the teams was just 2-2-2. And because teams get more time, they were kind of offset in terms of when their lunch was, things like that. So for at least on our end, I think it kind of worked out. So we weren't running around between both tournaments when the times were up, because the times were up at different times.
Yeah, it kind of made it a little bit easier towards the end of the day to just not have to bounce as much and just get a breather. Yeah,
and then the award ceremony was like one before the other, so that was pretty cool. It made it a lot easier than scrambling to do all the awards all at once.
Yeah.
It was easy just to do the little piece here, and then an hour later or 2 hours later a little piece here. So that was good.
It was nice too when the teams were doing the pairings for about an hour. That's like when the singles was starting, and all the questions happened at the beginning of the round generally. So it's like we didn't have to bounce between both as much. We could focus on one for a little bit when they needed it.
I noticed that when we did teams for SoCal Open, there was that half hour, 45 minutes of just nobody bothering us because they're too busy doing the pairings.
Yep.
So that was enjoyable. The hotel was nice, for the most part.
It's Atlantic City.
So
still leave the hotel.
Yeah, it was fine. I mean, it's a casino with the tash and everything's inside. I got there Thursday morning because I took the red eye, and you and Jorge, Jessie got there like Thursday late evening.
Yeah, it was like 8 or 9 o'clock.
So there wasn't too much open on Thursday, so not too many options to eat, but it's still nice. But going into the day, Friday was good. We did have an issue with a player that did not have a complete list, so they had, I think it was game 3 that the that we were made aware of it. Was it game 3? I think it was game 3.
Game 3. They were missing their
so
detachment.
Yeah, they didn't have an attachment. They didn't have. So they had their enhancements on there, right?
Yeah.
They just didn't have detachment, so it wasn't. Yeah. So obviously it's a yellow card just for that. We didn't deduct any points for that game.
And I think that was the big reason why, is because when we were there at the table, like, I was reading his list and he had the enhancements on it, and then he was explaining the enhancements he had, where it was like, you're still wrong, but I'm gonna give you a little bit of leniency, you know?
Yeah. So that was the biggest impact on day 1. Day 2, we had. Day 2 was fine until we got to the end of the day, where that same player that had the missing list also was playing the rules wrong, and had been playing the rules wrong the whole weekend up to that point. So we had issued him the red, because that would have been his second yellow, so it's the game red and an auto loss at that point. So and when we were told about it, the player that had issues with the game did not know that his opponent had a yellow already. So when people talk to me about stuff like that, I make a best effort not to let them know what's going on with that particular player, so they're not. We've had it before, at least Danny remembers, where certain players were targeted because people knew they had a yellow already, so they would try really hard to get them that other yellow so they would be disqualified.
Weaponize it.
So, yeah, Danny's the one that's experienced that more than me. So it's just it's something to be aware of, and it's just something that can happen. I'm not saying it always happens, but this is why I don't tell anybody what. Like, I don't tell someone, hey, well, your opponent already has a yellow. I don't mention that, and so his opponent didn't know when he was reporting to us about the misplay. So we let him know, and I believe you corrected him, Jess, about how to play it correctly.
Yeah, I showed him the rule and then reminded him, hey, bud, like, you should look up all your rules before you just declare things, and then if somebody asks you to look at the rule, definitely humor them and look it up, even if you think, because you've already got a red, you're on thin ice.
Yeah. So going into, that was the end of day 2. Going into day 3, we had a few players that weren't battle ready, which always happens. It's always we always check to see if at some point, although we try to make it as early in the tournament as possible, but sometimes we can't for whatever reason. But so we had a few players that were not, their armies were not battle ready, so they don't get the 10 points in their games. We had one player get a yellow because I guess it would be poor sportsmanship.
Yeah, it was poor sportsmanship. I know which one you're talking about. It was his opponent was wanting to, I guess, vent to the judges and express some opinions, and he walked up and was very dismissive and was saying, hey, I thought we agreed to keep this at the table, but then, kind of just aggressive and shoos away his opponent from talking to the judges. And then 10 seconds later, he turns around and just wants to talk to the judges. And it's like, my guy, that was fun. And then they get back to the table, and it just gets heated from there.
Yeah, that's one of those tables where I had to give the warning of, like, if we have to come back there again for a non-question, like, because they seem to be too aggressive with each other, I would have just called it. I did that at Cherokee.
Yeah.
The two players were they were butting heads from the very beginning, and I double lost them and carded them essentially. And this one I just gave them that warning, and they finished the game.
Yeah, they finished that game. I think. Yeah, because I remember going over there and talking to him and telling him that same thing. And just I think that threat was enough to, kind of calm them down and realize how silly they were being over something that was
trivial. We told them that they can call us for questions. But if we got to go there because they're acting out, or it looks like it's getting too heated, then we just stop it. Just easier. Yeah. So that was day 3.
Yeah.
Yes, that was the first
6.
game of day 3. Yeah, and then round 7, the same player. So usually, what happens is when
I totally
the
disagree.
player plays a rule wrong, we just check to see to make sure they're still playing it correctly. So we went to the previous opponent. His opponent, the person who got the red, we went to his opponent in round 6.
Mm-hmm.
I believe you talked to him, Jesse.
Yeah. Sorry. Just asked him, kind of, hey, how was the game? Like, what did you think about it? And just wanted him to speak for himself and told him, like, be completely honest, you know. And it was more of he recalled, like, you know, misproper stats on rules, which aligned previously with why he got that red. And then he was saying there was multiple times he had to correct him and look things up himself. And when he asked him, he was like, are you sure that's right? And, you know, it was one of those,
right.
He was told he needs to be on his toes and check his own rules and not have his opponents police him. So.
Yeah, so because of that, we had to give him the second red, which is usually it's usually basically you're done with the event, but it was the last round, so it didn't really matter in regards to that. We did speak to him afterwards, and I did remind him to not. Usually, when things like that happens, I try to tell them not to talk to their opponents afterwards, because things like this you can usually figure out who the judges talk to. It's not that hard, to be honest. Unfortunately, the player did the opposite of what I asked him.
Yeah, I told him the same thing. I was like, who we talk to is irrelevant. You don't need to know. You know, like, leave it alone. Because it's one of those, I get you're frustrated, because even if you know, we'll say he's not playing maliciously or anything like that, you know.
Yeah.
But
I don't think he was.
like, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt and say he wasn't doing anything malicious. It was, we'll say, incompetence. There's a certain, like, trust that, like, you have to build, you know, if you're going to be like, hey, how was your last game? And then to have, you know, the guy, the culprit in question come up and immediately talk to you after the judge talks to you. It's like, that can deter you from wanting to talk to judges in the future, you know, so. Because nobody wants to be the bad guy.
Danny, didn't we talk about this before with somebody at LVO?
About what specifically?
Not talking. Oh, yeah.
Not talking to your opponents. Yeah, we've had several people, I think, over the years do that, and I usually have to explain to them of like, hey man, no one is wanting a witch hunt on you. It's just gathering information, and please understand from our point of view, if you're getting upset that we're talking to other people and you're trying to find who we're talking to, that paints you in a negative light. So if you really just want this to kind of not be a big deal, just leave it alone. If there's anything we need to talk about, we'll come talk to you about it. Otherwise, it's just us gathering data to make the best decisions we can make.
Yeah, I will admit, I mean, I'm very protective of players in these situations because of what could happen.
Right.
And to make players feel comfortable with talking to judges without having to be afraid of being confronted. So I did. I'll say I lectured the player, and then I did ask them to leave the hall, almost like a cooling off, because it's just like, come on, man. But yeah, I mean, in all honesty, the player, he's not the first person we've ever asked to leave a hall, but there have been people in the past that have been a bit more confrontational when they confront or talk to their opponents. And now that we talk about LVO, there is one in particular that was very, yeah. Oh my gosh, this is an off-air story because it was insane. But yeah, so it's happened. It's unfortunate, but it's just, and it's something we need to take care of as judges in general, just to to protect players so that they feel comfortable with calling a judge over or talking to a judge afterwards. Because I had people talk to me, not about this particular player in particular, but just in general all the time, about who they played and how their game was. And for the most part, I'll go talk to the player, and 99% of the time, the player just says, okay, I'll work on it, or I'll try to be better, or, they don't ask me who it was, because again, you're only playing like 5 or 6 people over the course of the weekend. It's not that hard to figure out, but it's a different story than like actually going and confronting someone. So we don't normally encourage that. I try to discourage him. Like I said, when I was told that he did that, I had to ask him to leave because it just wasn't a safe environment. As even if you tell me that you didn't mean anything by confronting them, that doesn't matter.
Yeah, you still kind of put that other person in an uncomfortable position.
Yeah, it's what is it? The path of evil is paved with good intentions, or how does that quote go, Danny?
Yeah, the path to hell is paved with good intentions.
Yeah, so you may have meant well, but what if the person you're confronting overreacts and then something happens that could have been prevented? You just let it
live, let it lie.
Yeah.
And I remember making an effort to go talk to, the person I talked to who was his round 6 opponent, just like trying to smooth things over, be like, hey, like, I'm sorry he came and talked to you. We told him not to. Like, I appreciate your honesty, and like, don't let this defer you from, feeling like you can talk to judges in the future, because like, it was one of those, if he was talking to him, we don't know what was said, he could have made him feel uncomfortable, but.
Right. Yeah, so barring all that excitement, everything was fine. The teams was fairly smooth, like I said, compared to the singles. So I think something happened in the teams event, but the captains squared it amongst themselves. So
I think there was one yellow we gave out for teams. And it was because
one
the
yellow
player, he realized he was using Havoc launchers wrong all event, and he self-reported. So it was one of those. I gave him a yellow, but I didn't deduct points because he self-reported on himself, and told him I was like, the same thing. Like, don't mess up anymore. So both captains, both players.
And there was something else that happened because the captains had come up and told me to change the score. And I think something happened, but the captains worked it out between themselves instead of having to come to us, which is what the captains are supposed to do. So,
I didn't hear about that one.
The team side, because the team side was able to police themselves. It was fine. But the winner of the event for singles was Derek Apshe with Death Guard. Surprise, surprise.
Shocking.
Second was Space Marines, and then third was Thousand Suns. On the team side, the team that won was Get Good 40K, which, for those that don't know, is the player that wears the corn helmet.
The World Eater.
That's like the World Eater that's 5 foot nothing that wears the corn helmet. It's kind of short for a corn berserker. They were technically undefeated. I think they got... Oh, no, they were undefeated. One of the draws turned into a win because the scores were in wrong. But yeah, they were the only undefeated team after 6 rounds. Second place was Legion of Extraordinary Gentlemen, and then third place was Iron Inquisitors. So it was fun all around. Jessie, I don't know what your thoughts. I think this was the first one you did with us, right? Or second one for ACO.
I assisted a little bit last year with ACO, but I didn't judge. I know I did paint judging last year with ACO.
Okay. There we go. So I believe it's happening again next year. Don't quote me on that. And I believe it's the week after Father's Day.
Before or after, I just remember it not being on it anymore.
That's kind of important because even though we got about 200 players, in all honesty, the numbers have been about the same for the last 2-3 years. So I'm hoping that not being on Father's Day weekend will pump those numbers up for next year. Now, whether it's teams or singles, I don't know. That's not up to me. I think the questionnaire went out, I think on Tuesday or Wednesday. But, and hopefully, people seem to enjoy the team. People seem to enjoy both, so we may just do both again. But if one is more heavily than the other, then that may change. Because there's enough space in the venue where as one gets bigger, it can push the other one over. So
Yeah, there was like, it wasn't desolate or like barren in there, but there was plenty of like room where we could have expanded the teams or without impacting other events.
Yeah, because we also had MCP, we had BattleTech, we had Blood Bowl and Blood Bowl 7s.
AOS teams, right? Was there
AOS teams? Yeah, no, it was AOS teams. We had Kill Team. We had a bunch of events. It was a lot of events. So,
was there an Old World, or was they just talking about Old World?
I think there was.
Yeah.
I should look on the website. You think I'd be prepared?
Yeah. Hey man, Old World events are new. It's popping up and becoming popular.
Well, yeah. I don't know, Danny. How was is the General's Handbook out yet?
Yeah, I just came out for AOS.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know what the reception has been about that.
I don't know. I've been a little bit out of the loop. I was trying to get back in because I was hoping to do the AOS Summer League because that's a little less intensive of a schedule, and I need to get back to playing games. So I have to catch up on my party at the All Points.
I may have to ask Keith.
Yeah.
Keith still plays once in a while. But yeah, so I don't know. I think we did. AOS was small for their event. I think a lot of people jumped to Old World, to be honest.
I prefer that rule set if I want to play a fantasy game, but I've always said I hate double turns.
I don't mind the double turn. It's just I already play a game with round bases.
Fair. So you want ranking points?
I don't know.
Yeah. Every edition, they sound like a battered, spouse where they're like, no, it'll be different this time,
Yeah. Oh yeah, there was Old World, and it was teams.
Yeah.
Teams of 4. Oh, and there was Shatterpoint. Shatterpoint was there too.
Oh my God, Shatterpoint, really?
Yeah. Yes. Just because nobody plays it where we live, Danny, doesn't mean no one else plays it. So that was more or less the weekend. As always, there are stories I cannot tell on the air. So if you catch me in a good mood in person, I could maybe tell a little bit of that story. So come to LSO or LVO 2.0, and then I can tell you what else happened over there. But for the most part, someone asked me if I had fun. I always have fun, even with all the issues that come up during the course of the event. Compared to 7th edition, pre code of conduct, all these events are like cakewalk. Danny can attest to it.
Oh yeah, God, my God,
Danny's been in the trenches.
Yeah. So yeah. No, there's like, anytime people complain, like I always find it funny on social media because the actual like hobby social media is so much more painting and like model focused than it is like competitive focused. And they all have these very, very twisted ideas about like what competitive players are like. And I constantly just want to be just like, you have no idea how much better it is, right? Like this is like you, like damn, like how sensitive are you if you can't handle the people we have today? Because I can tell you 10 years ago what it was like, and
honestly, it's like there was 200 people, and only like having to red card one person and give out like a handful of yellows, like that's not that big of a deal. It's not like competitive should be this dirty word or like all competitive players are assholes. Like that's so. It was such a small amount.
Yeah, and in the early days, especially when we first instituted the code of conduct, we were much harsher in dealing those out. So, which is why I kind of don't. I try. So if anyone that knows me, I hate paperwork. Just hate it. I don't. If I can avoid it, I try to. As many people know, I also referee soccer, and that's why we use the similar system. In soccer, if you get a yellow card, no paperwork. Red card, there's paperwork, and I hate doing paperwork for soccer too. So I don't give red cards just because I feel like it. Because if I give a red card to somebody at an Info 40K event, I now have paperwork to do. So I try to avoid it as much as possible. So, so it's not something that I give out. It's not something I give out lightly. So, in terms of that's just the context of like how serious it has to be for me to like tell Jessie or Jorge or any of the judges that we need to give somebody a red card. And the rules are clear on what constitutes a red card. 2 yellows. It's just like soccer. You know, and we didn't get the original yellow did not the original yellow did not go with a points penalty because we felt it wasn't necessary. Or Jessie, you felt it wasn't necessary when after talking to him or after watching him go through his list. So, but you know, the second time where you're playing stuff wrong and you're more importantly you're playing it to your advantage. We can maybe overlook it if it was to your disadvantage that you're playing it wrong. But I think we red card someone at Cherokee, or was it a yellow because they were playing the rule wrong?
No, we did red card them.
Okay.
I remember it was the Slanesh Keepers of Secrets, and it was because his opponent came up and was like, "Hey, my opponent played this wrong," and then I remember going to the table and just watching the game, and then it was like, "Yeah, he did just play it wrong," and so it was like I witnessed it, so it was like that one he just got a yellow, but then it was like, "Hey, don't mess up anymore," you know, like.
And then he messed up again.
And then he messed up again, so it's like then he got a red for that game. But luckily, after getting that red, we didn't hear from him the rest of the event. He was good.
Yeah, that was the one that had all the weapons on the
Keepers of Secrets. Yeah,
on the Keepers of Secrets. Yes. Why not take them all? Why not?
Yeah, that was one of those I had to show. You can pick one of these, not all of these.
Right. Yeah. Forgot about that. So yeah, so it happens, and in all honesty, even if you get an event red, that doesn't mean you're like banned from any other FLG events or anything like that. It's on a case by case basis, and I just think it was an honest mistake, and he just kept on making the mistake. So we'll see what happens. You know, like I said, there's paperwork to do, which I love. So, and then Jessie has to do too.
Yeah, don't we all?
We love making our job more like a job, or our hobby more like a job.
Yeah.
But moving forward after this, everything else seemed fine. Army Painter was there. They helped with the paint judging.
Yeah, Caleb and Kat, they were great.
Yeah, because it was Army Painter, they do a thing where they paint judge, but it's like the whole event, not just one side. So instead of having a paint award for 40K singles only and teams only, they just combine the two. For it's almost like the whole weekend winner and best in show. So best in show was Mike Fox. If those of you that are from the LA area,
oh yeah, Mike Fox.
Fox.
Yeah, every time I see that army, like I love it. That treasonous 13th, you know, like
that's the Trader Guard.
Yeah, Matt
so
Aaron,
he got best in show.
Yeah, his
Aaron got gold.
Come a long way because I remember seeing him at the last ACO paint judging him, and just the work he's put in from last year where he didn't even make top 5 to getting second. He really took that feedback and ran with it. So
yeah,
it's always nice when painters do that.
Yeah, so it was a lot of fun. I like I said, I still had fun.
Yeah, I had a blast. There was lots of jokes. It was fun.
So again, once again, thank you for Jessie for helping, and Jorge and Jared and Jonathan. So it was Jared's first time at a larger event, so he got to see the full gambit.
Yeah,
full gambit of what could go, what could happen. So, but yeah. So looking forward to LSO next. I believe Jessie, you're helping me with that too.
Yeah, get to go to the home
Danny,
state.
you might play. Yeah. Oh, okay. Danny, you might play.
For
no, is it?
Oh, so I won't know for at least a couple of weeks. It really depends on work and whether they pay me my goddamn money.
That's most things in life with work.
Yep.
But in addition, so ACO happened. 5-hour flight both ways was got a lot of sleep.
That's adorable. Us and our 16-hour drive.
Oh, Jesus.
Well, you could have flown.
We didn't know that was an option.
They did check my phone to see if it was a bomb.
Huh.
Thought it was. Yeah,
Never heard
they
of that
swab
being a
it.
thing. Oh.
They swab it with to see if it has the chemicals on it or whatever.
Yeah.
So they don't look at the information. They just swab it. They probably looked at the information, but that's fine. They'll just see my hentai.
Uwu.
So, yeah, well, it's art. We all know that.
Yeah, Sam Jackson said it's art.
So, in addition, we had a couple more. Since then, it's been a busy week. We had Black Templars, a sneak peek for Black Templars. Was it the Ancient? What is he?
He's some ancient. I don't remember what word they gave him, but he's an ancient. I am much
Crusade
hyped about
ancient?
that. Yeah.
Something like that?
Yeah, I think that sculpt's going to be great to make captains out of, so I'll probably end up picking up like 5 or 6, to be honest, just to make characters out of.
Oh, so yeah. Crusade Ancient. That's what he's called. So,
Yeah.
and then they just put in points adjustments for Imperial and Chaos Knights.
That was a big one. Lots of talk.
I mean, if you thought you didn't see enough Canis Rex now,
Right.
He's going to be everywhere.
Danny, your hot take on the Knights? What'd you play?
Cheaper Knights good. I don't know what else to tell you. Like, I'm always stuck in the same kind of realm with them of, I don't know if they're, the way that they're designed now, as like just models and their rules, if they're ever going to have a sweet spot. Because if you make them dirt cheap, or I'm like, I can take 10 big guys and,
Right.
in one army, then they're, kind of broken. But the way that they, traditionally have been, is just when you only have 5 to 9 models on the table, everything's so swingy. Every attack you land needs to be statistically average to, like, implement your gameplay, right? Like, and so all it takes is just, one bad roll, and it's like, oh, look at that. This
I think
giant
3/4 is probably the most interesting to play against as the opponent.
Right.
I've played a shitload of Canis and the Boys, and like that one, I get tired of playing that game, to be honest.
Right.
I thought it was interesting. Imperial Knights, their war dogs kept battle line,
Right.
which
And
I'm
yeah,
like,
Chaos
it's
Knights
weird.
only do in our detachment. And
Yeah,
then
like I was talking to a friend about this, where it's, I think I dropped.
But I'm also saying 300.
It cut out for a second, sorry. But Chaos Knights, like, on paper they have like 5 war dogs, but ever since like I've been playing 40k, you only ever see 2. So it's like both just have 2, because you only see the 1 token stalker 13 list anyways. I don't get the change to making Chaos Knights not battle line.
Yeah, I really don't know. But I mean, like the Tyrant at under 400 is kind of tasty, because now we could actually do quad poon.
That's the big
I mean, if
boy,
you take
big
no
boy,
upgrades, or yeah, 3. Well, they
This
actually
one's
can only
a
take
harpoon.
3.
Danny calls it a poon because he likes saying poon.
Yeah, who
Well,
doesn't?
poon's just a fun word.
Right? Yeah, it rolls off the tongue.
Certainly
Something
does.
else with the tongue.
All right, but you can so they're not battling. You can take 3 tyrants, and that's under 1,200 points. So you can take 3 tyrants and like 2 desecrators,
Or like a Lancer.
or 2 rampagers. Yeah, I mean Lancer at 355 is still, I think, a steal, because like that's just a great throw it in the middle, gum up the works. Because having that 4++ all the time makes them really annoying to get rid of if you roll average. And if you roll hot,
triple
oh my god,
Lancer.
those things never die.
Yeah, I think Triple Lancer's going to come back like it did kind of towards the tail end of 9.
Yeah. I mean, I could definitely see the C2 just for... Again, most armies are going to struggle to pick one up in one turn, so you send it, you just jam it down the middle and let it get to the middle objective and be a problem, and then, when they finally take it out, there's another one coming right in.
Yeah, and then with Chaos Knights, too, like, the Grotmas might see, the advance and charge might make it more interesting now at 350.
Yeah, although, I mean, this definitely represents that the Knights in general, it seems like, have been toned down in power, right? Like, they've lost toughness. They've, gained a couple of wounds, but they've lost a lot of stuff. So this seems balanced around it. But 380 point Canis Rex is pretty sexy.
Yeah. The break points now around like Strength 5 are just so interesting. To where it's like on littles you would need, with Strength 5 and a lot of things have Strength 5, like you would need 6s. Well, now you need 5s, or like with Melta going to 4s and all that. I think they're going to be a lot less durable, but still just as offensive. So,
right.
But more models. So who knows? I'm curious to see how they play. I hope to get a game in with them soon.
Yeah.
Yeah. Although with Imperial Knights, you could do some real bullshit because the Castellan and the Valiant are separate data sheets. You could do 3 Valiants and 2 Castellans.
That sounds rough.
Yeah.
I'm sure you fit Canis in there somewhere.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Probably.
I mean, you could drop... You could literally just drop one of the Valiants and just do 2 Valiants, 2 Castellans, Canis, and probably have points for upgrade somewhere.
Sounds good.
That's pretty funny. I don't know. I wonder if we can actually pull off 3 Valiants and 2 Castellans, because that just seems like a great... If I go to LSO, that's going to be a list I would bring, so I would have time to go to the pool every game.
Yeah. Win fast, lose fast, either way. The games are over quick.
Right?
Yeah, Danny's more the latter.
Yeah, lose fast.
Going by his Champs Cup performance.
Well,
you just got to win one. You win one all weekend, and you're fine.
Yeah.
Well, again.
Oh.
Yeah, that definitely didn't happen at that last time, but hey,
it's different. It's a team's event. They just threw you to the wolves. It's
yeah.
I'm sure that's what it was.
Yeah, totally.
Blame the team.
Blame the captain. It's all the captain's fault. Speaking of, Danny, I know you were unable to play out the league, our local league. I finally jumped back in because I wanted to play at least one league,
right,
with the Emperor's Children.
How'd that go?
It went surprisingly well. I only got to play 4 out of my 5 games because I had to get ready for ACO. I took the same list. No, I had to change it because the points were updated before my last game. And I just took whatever I had on hand, so it was not an optimal Emperor's Children list because it had no demon princes with wings. But it was basically a lord, 2 cacophony lords, 2 units of noise marines, rhinos, flawless blades, Lucius. I call them tactical marines because I always forget what their name is.
The Infractor, Torment, or whatever.
Is it Infractors? Well, I took 1 squad of the close combat guys, 1 big squad, and then 2 small squads. And I took 2 Chaos Spawn and 2 Brigands for allies.
How are you liking the Brigands in there?
I loved them. The Melta 4, when they get in range, is amazing. Especially on vehicles.
Until you come across something with an invul, then it's just, it sucks.
Well, yeah. That happened in my... So I played 4 games. I went 3-1. I beat... what's the one? It's the Eldar detachment where it's all Ghost Warriors.
Yeah, the like Wraithbone goes.
Yeah, so that one started rough in the beginning, but in the end, I was able to turn it around. I lost to Yanari because I just again, if you're making the 4-up saves for some other stuff, it just doesn't matter what I do. and then I barely beat New Space Wolves, and that was just a misplay. That was a misplay on his part. I didn't do anything. I think he used, because he had the new Logan and a squad of Terminators, and he just used them wrong. And then I beat Custodes by the skin of my teeth. Again, all the game except for the Eldar game, all the games were like within like 5 points.
Are New Space Wolves out yet?
Well, they allowed him to use the FOMO, because the FOMO box is out.
Ah, okay.
So the Space Wolf players in our league, they allowed them to use the FOMO. They allowed them to use the FOMO. I didn't care. You're gonna come up. You're gonna come up against sooner or later. So,
yeah.
So it was like, it was pretty intense. It was just like, they have how many attacks? Everything's strength 5 and damage 2, and everything's lethals.
Yeah.
Well, having lethals on, because it's lethals against vehicles, I guess the one detachment, and I had like vehicles and monsters, and I had like 6 or 7 vehicles with the rhinos. Oh, and I had a Land Raider, because I just have a Land Raider. But I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 5 vehicles. And I think characters too, because I have like 6 characters in the army. But I pulled that one out because I was able to get his home objective that he only had infiltrators on with with the Chaos Spawn, because they're OC1. So the Chaos Spawn are actually pretty good in all my games. Just 2 Chaos Spawn. But
The amount of work 2 Chaos Spawn can do always just surprises me. I've had one unit with World Eaters at Index just like lock down a Land Raider for just multiple turns and just be Gandalf and say, "You shall not pass."
Yeah, and then Custodes again, that came down to him trying to burn an objective from turn 4 to turn 5, because I had top of turn, and so I had luckily because I have the advance and charge with Emperor's Children, or advance and shoot, I was able to kill the unit off before they could sabotage, and that basically was winning the game. So the Noise Marines, I'm probably going to put in 3rd squad of Noise Marines, because the Noise Marines are just with the Lord, with the sustained 1. It's just, they're just really good. So
don't they do a random battle shock too?
The Doom Siren does from the Lord. He does mortal wounds. He can do mortal wounds, and if he does a mortal wound, then they have to take a battle shock test, or something along those lines. But yeah, they can, if you have the Lord Cacophony, whatever it's called, the Guitar Lord. Then he with the Doom Siren backpack, he gives them that. Does more wounds, and then they have to take a test. And I think if they either get hit or if they take more wounds, I can't remember off the top of my head. But he does take more wounds. I did forget a lot of rules, and I forgot like a lot of stratagems. So there was that, but it was still, it was a good learning experience. Flawless, in my opinion, flawless blades are trash. They only have 3 attacks, and they're only strength 6.
Yeah, I think they're not like a great hammer at their points cost.
No.
Like, they want to be like a Exalted 8-bound, but they're not Exalted 8-bound.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. They're like a poor man's Exalted. You can give them that their ability is basically, their ability is they auto wound on 3s if you want to.
Yeah, they're anti everything on 3s basically.
Yeah.
So they kind of are, but they're not.
Yeah. So it's so against tactical Marines essentially, or intercessors, they're fine.
Yeah.
But against anything else, it's just not.
I think they're a good late game kind of, especially in like, what is it, coterie? Like once you turn on all the buffs, then I think they really shine, which means you probably have to wait to deploy them until like 3, 4, 5. And that's sometimes hard to do. You want to fire the missile.
in 3 out of my 4 games, they were like in right away.
Yeah.
And luckily, the Noise Marines kind of bailed everybody out because they just look at something and delete it. My last game against what was my last game against the Golden Boys? The Custodes. They didn't come out till like turn 3, I think. They did a lot better. Lucius did a lot. I like Lucius, especially with the character killing ability.
Yeah.
They're able to get full rerolls against characters.
I've seen Lucius stand up to a whole squad of breachers once, and just the save profile he has is insane.
Yeah, it's a 2 up, 4 up, 5 up.
Yeah, and like 7 wounds or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's 6, but yeah. So it's. I get it. I know I need to change. Like, unfortunately, I have to drop. I like the Land Raider because it's the Proteus, Land Raider Proteus. I like that model. So, but I know if I wanna actually do better. But and I was in the bottom pod. Well, I was in the bottom pod, so
Okay.
which is fine. It's where I want to be. But I have to stop with the league because I can't because of the store. I have to commit more to the store in regards to that. So that's my update in regards to playing games. Danny, you've been able to play anything?
No, I've just worked between work and the kids and everything else. I've been just kind of on lockdown, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's usually how it is. Hopefully, you get some time off in the foreseeable future.
Yeah, one would hope. We'll see.
But we'll see. Jess, I don't know how your scene is. Do you guys have a league? Did you know you playing or?
I mean, I run a lot of events locally, and so I don't know. I've got like a few guys that I play with and I'll like pick out for games. I've got 2 to 3 loosely scheduled for this weekend. It just depends on how busy my weekend gets. Want to try out some Drukari, some Reaper's Wager, see how I like that.
Okay. Yeah, we have a so over here for those that are not familiar, it's like a pod system. It's a lot of it's used in Southern California and Vegas. I think the Vegas guys, or no, it was one of the Orange County guys that came up with it originally. But it's basically you're supposed to be playing people of the same level in your pod, and the top 2 or 3, depending on how many players total we have, advance to the next pod up. It's almost like relegation in Premier League, if you're familiar with soccer.
I am not.
Oh, so the way soccer works, at least Premier League soccer in the UK, there's the Premier League, and then the bottom like couple of teams at the end of the season, they drop down to the league just below, and then the top teams from the league just below jump up to Premier League. It's that same concept. So as you win, so like the guys who won the top, I think 3 in my pod, they're going to move up. And then the bottom 3 from the pod above me are going to move down if they play the next season.
Yeah.
So it's constantly adjusting. Ideally, you're playing against players of similar skill level, so you're not always getting trounced by like the top player in your area.
So do you do this from like league to league to league, and like the store tracks
Yes.
it? That's interesting. I like that concept.
Our guy Jeff Poole runs it, and he tracks it on Facebook. It's not store specific because we have a bunch of stores in the area, so you can play anywhere. It's not tied to any particular store. It's just a general Los Angeles. There's an LA league that includes the West Side. Then there's an Orange County league, San Diego league, and then there's a Las Vegas that use kind of the same format.
Yeah, I loosely kind of like started a league tracking metric for my local area where since I run all the events, it's easy for me to just every game and event you go to, you get points, just kind of like drum up that, players wanting to come back at the end of the year, there'll be a big prize, they get to see how they're doing. So I get that.
Yeah, and it's been around for, I don't know how many years it's been now. I know it was before COVID.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
But Jeff's been running it for a bunch of years, and like I said, so as you get close, it can get kind of samey, especially if you're in the top pod, and you're playing the same people all the time. But there's usually a new blood that comes in that moved to the area.
Yeah, that's the nice thing about living in like a military town here, over by, I think it's going back to Fort Gordon, is that it got changed and then it got changed again from what I've heard, but
it'll probably change again.
Yeah, it'll change again in the next 4 years. But just as people, deploy out, get stationed here, like, we get new people all the time, and so that is always nice.
Yeah. So and unless we know somebody, they usually get put in the bottom pod, or if they think they're better, then Jeff will put them up, or if he knows them and knows what their skill level is. So it's I mean, for as long as it's run, it's pretty good. It's a pretty good a way of running the league, and the San Diego one has been running longer. I think that's the longest running one out of all of us. So I'm skipping that because I mentioned before about the store. We did get the initial offer from one place, that place that we really want. So there's some negotiations. So we'll have to see if we'll get the contract to sign fairly soon. So we're hoping at the end of the month we'll have the lease signed. So fingers crossed on that. But other than that, I think that is it. Is there anything you guys are looking forward to, Danny?
Getting a chance to play again, but there's like all of my armies got updated, so I want to do the burrowing Tyranids. I really haven't had a chance to play with the new World Eaters that much.
The World Eater players did not do well at ACO.
Yeah, well, sounds about
right. And only one Tyranid player on both sides. Only one of them took the new detachment.
Mm.
Yeah.
Oh,
I think it's just because they don't. A lot of Tyranid players don't have the Trigons or whatever ready.
Right.
I certainly do.
Danny has everything. Danny has all the Tyranid models.
Yeah. If you could see my game room, yeah, same.
Yeah, I kind of hate it that I'm like all of my armies got updated essentially, and I have like no time to play any of them. So it's just like oh.
That's how it feels. Yeah. I'm wanting to try, like Cedric Hart. Cedric picked up this lot from one of the local guys, and I have a pretty cool like custom Harlequins army I bought a while ago that I really like. It was made from the old Corvus Cabal that's out of print now, so like that kind of makes it feel fun to play that Warcry team. But if I'm not liking that enough, I have a ton of orcs. And the last list I ran was Dread Mob with 18 cans, and that was absolutely a blast to play. So I kind of want to get back to that too.
Okay. So that's what you have planned, Jesse, going other than LSO.
I have LSO and LVO on the books. I have no clue when I'll get to make it up to play an event.
Yeah, I have LSO and then my personal event at Hammer Wrath in August, end of August. So August will be busy.
Nova's on my books. I'm actually going to go play Nova.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, nice.
Friends with one of the owners up there, Brian Boswell, and so he's in my city, and he runs a lot of events with me, so a lot of us locals go up to Nova to support him. So. But Nova's a lot of fun. It's DC, but it's fun.
All right. Yeah, I went in 2018. That's when I went.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was fun. Considering who I was with at the time, yeah, it was fun. So, I have stories, but they're not like I can tell those stories.
Can or can't?
I can.
Okay.
They involve a drinking game that uses the song "Thunderstruck" by AC/DC.
Mm.
So I don't think it's. I know we're not family friendly to begin with because I don't put that on the metrics. So it's basically you start drinking a beer and then you switch to the next person as soon as they say "Thunderstruck." And there's stretches of that song where they don't say "Thunderstruck."
Oh, so you gotta listen. Okay.
So you got to keep going until they say
How fast
"Thunderstruck"
do you have
again.
to drink?
Wait, you finish a beer, you start on another one. That's how it went.
That's on you, it sounds like.
Yeah. Well, it's almost like hot potato.
Yeah.
But yeah. So that one was fun. I do recommend people go at least once if you've never been. I always recommend that one, Adepticon, LVO, and I would suggest any GW event. Doesn't have to be Worlds, but Worlds is probably the better one, especially if you play the narrative.
Yeah. Adepticon and Dragon Con, those are two that are still on my books that like I haven't gone to out of like the big cons.
Right, I've heard good things about Dragon Con.
That one's in Atlanta, right?
I believe so, and when is it?
Yeah, it's like 2 hours away from me, and I've lived here for like I don't know.
You've never gone.
6 years now, so I haven't gone yet.
That's like living in LA and not going to Disneyland.
Yeah.
But yeah, but I think we'll cut it off. I think we'll end it here. Unfortunately, John could not make it, even though he said he could. So he had to. Luckily, we had Jessie to be the token white here for our episode.
The minority for a change.
Yeah. So so that I know how much people love our Mexican episodes, where I speak bad Spanish.
I
I'm
speak
sure
a little
Jorge
bad Spanish.
appreciates it. But Danny, you have any last words?
As usual, play games, be nice to each other.
Jesse, any pearls of wisdom?
Reading the card explains the card.
Nobody's going to read. Thank you, everybody, for listening, as always. Don't forget to like and subscribe and all that other fun stuff. We'll see everybody at the next episode, hopefully in a couple weeks. So good night, and have a pleasant tomorrow.
Laters.
Bye.